For years, there's been tension between cyclists and drivers. Here's some tips to help you learn how to drive safely around them. For drivers, it's important to remember that cyclists have a legal right to the road, and just like motor vehicles are a part of traffic. Remember, the roads are a part of the commons and belong to everybody, not just motorists. While cyclists are often required to ride to the right, they are only required to ride as close to the right as is safe. For safety, cyclists have to watch the road surface for hazards like glass, potholes, and other debris. It is legal for cyclists to move from the right into the lane to avoid hazards, so give them ample passing room. When passing a cyclist, slow to a safe speed and give at least 3 feet or more when overtaking them. Don't speed past a cyclist just before you make a turn, because it's easy to misjudge how fast cyclists are traveling, and you may violate the right-of-way and injure them. When making a turn, use your turning signals. Even if you don't see a cyclist, the cyclist will see you. While riding in traffic, it's especially important to be aware at on-ramps, off-ramps, and intersections. You can make your rides much safer by following some simple rules. If you are traveling straight through an intersection, be sure you are in the lane that goes straight through. If there is no right-hand turn lane, be aware that drivers in the right lane may be turning right. If there is a bike box that allows you to position ahead of the turning traffic, you can pass the line of stopped cars and position yourself in the bike box. When there is no bike box, queue up in traffic, filter up to the front, and position yourself in front of the lead car. Always look for drivers making left-hand turns across your path, especially at intersections. Don't assume a driver will yield to you or that they will even see you. If you are turning left, it is legal for you to turn from a left turn lane, just like drivers do. Highway on and off ramps pose a very big risk because drivers are not often looking for cyclists. To safely cross a highway ramp, look behind you to see if there are any cars approaching. Signal appropriately and then begin crossing only when you see a safe opening in traffic. I don't like it when motorists pass me in a rude and dangerous way. That's why when I overtake cyclists, pedestrians, or drivers, I try to be considerate, and you should too. If you are behind a cyclist and want to pass, always pass to the left. In most cases, other cyclists will not hear you approaching, so it's important to announce your pass with an audible signal to avoid a collision. A simple "on your left" or "passing" will suffice. If you are passing a pedestrian, you need to remember that the pedestrian has the right of way, and you are required to give them sufficient room and not buzz them. Even though you may feel you can safely pass at speed, it is still unnerving to be passed so closely and at a high rate of speed. So slow down a bit and give ample room. Anticipate that pedestrians may change their direction suddenly and without warning. On multiple use paths, it's best to keep your speed low. In this scenario, you are the heaviest, fastest vehicle and have a duty to be careful around others. Busy pathways are not the place to do hard riding. Treat others the same way that you want to be treated. One of the biggest thrills you can have on a bicycle is diving into a corner and making a fast, smooth turn. To set up your turn, look down the road and pick your line. You want to move to the outside of the lane before your turn, dive to the inside of the apex as you turn, and then drift back to the outside of the lane as you exit your turn. Usually, wherever your eyes and head go, your body will follow. If you need to slow your speed to make the turn, you should brake before you start your turn. If you misjudge your speed and need to brake during your turn, don't brake too sharply. Instead, just feather the brake during the turn. Keep your outside pedal down and weighted. Inside pedal up. Lower your center of gravity by shifting your weight from the saddle to the outside pedal. To improve your cornering, focus on counter steering. To counter steer, put downward pressure on your inside hand. This causes your body weight to fall to the inside, which helps you lean into the turn. Wet road surfaces are some of the most challenging because you only have about half the friction, so reduce your speed. Painted lines and manhole covers are slicker than the road surface, so be careful. Road racing can be crazy, but for most of us, the hazards we need to worry about are right hooks, left crosses, and doorings. A right hook is a situation where a motorist takes a right-hand turn violating a cyclist right away. Motorists have a duty to check their mirrors and also signal before they turn, but they don't always do it, and you need to be prepared. Don't ride in the driver's blind spot. Either back off or accelerate ahead of them. A left cross is a situation where a motorist makes a left-hand turn directly in front of, or worse yet, right into a cyclist. Watch for any drivers in a turn lane and try to gauge their intentions. Doorings refer to the situation where a car door opens right in front of a cyclist. The best way to avoid doorings is to avoid the 3-foot section right next to parked cars and stopped cars. This is not always possible to do, and sometimes bike lanes are striped right in the door zone. If you have to ride in the door zone, continuously scan for occupants exiting the vehicle. To avoid all three of these hazards, just assume the motorist doesn't know you're there. Ride as though you're invisible. There are around 200 riders registered for the Tour de France, but 57 million people ride bikes in the United States, and we've been riding a long time. We've had a legal right to the road since 1887. And around that time, cyclists led the way for the first roads to be paved with the Good Roads movement. Remember, the roads are a part of the commons and they belong to everyone, whether you're driving a car, riding a bicycle, riding a horse, skateboarding, or just going for a walk. In fact, the right to travel is so important it's contained in the U.S. Constitution. We have a right to the roads, but how we use that right will determine whether we have a negative or a positive impact on cycling. Remember, you're an ambassador for our sport. Because there's strength in numbers, it's important that you get involved. Join a group like the League of American Bicyclists or some local advocacy group. One of the biggest threats to cyclist safety is automobiles, and the conflicts can get heated. The best way to handle road rage is to avoid it in the first place, but that's not always possible. Don't be the initiator, and make sure you're not the one that escalates things. As long as you keep your cool, you're in control. You lose control, and you've given up power to the driver. If you think a conflict is starting on the road, stop and ask yourself what your goal is. Because if your goal is to get even with the driver, stop immediately. Of course, you can defend yourself, but if you're chasing after a motorist, you've already gone beyond self-defense, and you're not going to look good in the eyes of the law. Your best course of action is to record all information about the event, the make and model of the car. That's great evidence. You have to anticipate that someone might violate your right of way. Don't fly off the handle, and you'll come out on top. Unlike a tour leader who gets a wide open road and a police escort, when we ride on the roads, we are traffic. This means we have a right to the road just like drivers, and we have to obey the rules of the road just like drivers. So when you're on your bike, obey the law. You don't have to ride as far to the right as possible. You have to ride as far to the right as is safely possible. This means you need to take into account roadside conditions, including debris, car doors, and other obstacles. If the lane is too narrow to safely share, the law will allow you to take the entire lane. In many jurisdictions, it's perfectly legal to ride side by side with another rider, but you'll still have to stay as far to the right as is safely possible. Make sure your bike is well maintained, that you wear a helmet, that you have eyewear, and you're wearing gloves. Make sure you have front and back lights at night and even when the light conditions are low. Always carry identification, like road ID. For more info and tips on how to keep yourself and others safe on your next ride, go to roadid.com/road rules.